The alarms were silent, and that silence was worse than noise. Commander Aisha Khan sat inside Europa Orbital Station, staring at the dead communication feed. Aurora 9 colony had gone dark. For 3 long hours, she replayed the same last transmission, trying to convince herself she had missed something. It was only a few seconds long, but it tore at her every time. Shouts in the background, a deep rumble like thunder, and then a child's voice crying out before the screen filled with static. After that, nothing. Aurora 9 wasn't just another colony. It was humanity's pride, a shining city built under alien stars. Almost 2 million people lived there, families who had never even set foot on Earth. Children had been born on its soil, played under its skies, and dreamed of a future far away from their ancestral home. Now, that future seemed to have been cut short in one night. Captain Elias Ward entered the command center without a word. They called him Ghost not because he was pale, but because his ship could vanish from sensors better than any other. He moved like a shadow, a man who saw things others couldn't. His face was grave, and Aisha felt her stomach twist. Ghost never looked like that unless he had seen something truly terrible. "You're not going to like this," he said quietly, placing a small data core on the table. He activated it, and a shimmering hologram filled the air, energy readings from the far edge of the Kepler passage, the space near Aurora 9. At first glance, it looked like storms of light, flashes circling the planet. But Aisha knew enough about weapons fire to recognize patterns. Controlled, calculated bursts. Not natural. Not human. "Those aren't ours," she whispered. "No," Ghost said. His tone was heavy. "And they're not anyone we've fought before. At least not openly. But the energy spikes. They match the old models we built to study if the Kale Dominion ever decided to act on their threats." Aisha froze. The Kale Dominion. The name alone was enough to make even hardened officers uncomfortable. A sprawling alien empire that had sent one warning a year ago: withdraw from the stars beyond Sol or face consequences. Humanity had ignored them. Why should Earth crawl back into its shell after finally reaching out into the galaxy? People laughed off the ultimatum at the time. But now Aurora 9 was silent. Ghost zoomed in on the energy field, and Aisha felt a chill run through her. The bombardments weren't meant to just destroy cities. They were wide, sweeping, targeting the very surface. If the readings were true, every living thing had been cooked in seconds. No survivors. No shelters. No escape. Aisha clenched her fists, nails digging into her palms. She tried to think of the families she had known on Aurora 9, but the only image in her mind was of the child's cry on the last transmission. "Maybe it's still a malfunction," she said softly, as if speaking it aloud might make it true. "Maybe the colony's systems are damaged. Maybe." Ghost shook his head. "Commander, it's not a malfunction. This was deliberate. They didn't just hit the colony. They wanted to erase it." The weight of his words hung heavy in the air. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The hum of the station's power core was the only sound. Finally, Aisha whispered, 1.8 million people. Ghost nodded. His eyes were sharp, but there was grief buried in them too. "And if the Kale Dominion did this, it won't stop with Aurora 9. They'll come for the others. Every colony beyond their border will be next." Aisha felt her throat tighten. She remembered when Aurora 9 was founded. She had been a young officer, watching the first transports leave Earth, carrying settlers full of hope. She remembered the speeches, the promises of peace, the dreams of a united galaxy. All of that shattered in silence. Her comms console lit up. An incoming call from Earth's Unified Command Council. The timing was no coincidence. They had heard the same silence, the same absence. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked back at Ghost. "You said those readings were from the edge of the Kepler passage?" "Yes." "And you risked your life to get them?" He gave a small shrug. "That's what I do." She stared at him for a long time. Ghost wasn't the kind of man who exaggerated. If he said it was the Dominion, then the Dominion had acted. That meant war. She finally accepted the incoming call. The screen lit up, showing Fleet Admiral Roman Vega, his face hardened like steel. He didn't waste time with greetings. Commander Khan, reports from Aurora 9. Silent, she said. Confirmed orbital bombardments. Unknown tech, consistent with Dominion signatures. Vega closed his eyes for one brief moment, then opened them with fire. Then they've chosen war. Aisha felt her chest tighten. Admiral, what are our orders? Hold position. Gather all data. We'll convene the council in 1 hour. If what you're saying is true, then every ship, every soldier, every resource humanity has will be put into this fight. His jaw clenched. And we will not stop until the Dominion learns what happens when they come for us. The call ended. Aisha leaned back in her chair, staring at the empty void outside the viewport. Aurora 9 was gone. The families, the children, the laughter. All of it burned away. But in the silence, something else had been born. Not fear. Something colder. Something sharper. Promise. And deep inside, she knew the Kale Dominion had just made the worst mistake of their existence. Because humanity would answer. And when they did, the stars themselves would tremble. The council chamber on Earth was built to inspire calm. But there was nothing calm about the voices that filled it now. Rows of officials, military officers, and scientists argued over one another, their words sharp and heavy with fear. Holographic screens floated in the air above them, displaying the last readings from Aurora 9, the static-filled final message, and the data Core Ghost had brought back. None of it needed explanation. The silence of the colony said everything. Commander Aisha Khan stood at the edge of the room, arms folded tight against her chest. She had not slept since Aurora 9 went dark, and the shadows under her eyes told the story of long hours staring at dead comm screens. Fleet Admiral Roman Vega sat at the center table, calm as stone, his hands clasped before him. He had led Earth's fleets for decades, but Aisha saw something in his expression she had never seen before: cold fury. "They've declared war," Vega said at last, his voice carrying across the chamber. The shouting stopped. Everyone turned to him. "The Kale Dominion warned us. We ignored them, and now they've followed through." A senator from Luna's delegation shook his head. "We don't know that for certain. These energy signatures could have been faked. If we accuse them without proof, we could start a war we can't win." Vega's glare silenced him. 2 million of our people are dead. Entire cities reduced to glass. That's not an accident, Senator. That's extermination. The senator tried to protest, but another voice rose. Dr. May Alvarez, her lab coat still stained from long hours in research, stepped forward. "Admiral Vega is right. I studied the fragments of signal buried in the static. This wasn't just destruction. They targeted the DNA code of human life itself. The radiation bursts were tuned for us." She let the words hang. This was genocide. Gasps rippled through the chamber. For a moment, the air felt thin, like every breath carried weight. Aisha's mind spun. She had suspected as much when Ghost showed her the readings, but hearing Alvarez confirm it sent a shiver through her. The Dominion hadn't simply punished a colony. They had chosen to erase humanity. "Then what are you suggesting?" asked a delegate from Mars, his voice shaky. "Do we mobilize everything? Do we risk Earth itself?" Before Vega could answer, Ghost's calm voice cut through the debate. He had arrived silently, as he always did, and now stood near the projection of Aurora 9. "They've already decided Earth is next," he said. "I found evidence near the colony. Dominion patrols are waiting, recording, testing our response. This wasn't an isolated strike. It was a message. And if we don't answer, every other colony will fall, one by one, until Earth burns last." The room was silent. Even the politicians who had been shouting minutes ago stared at him with wide eyes. Vega leaned forward. "We will not wait. We will not beg. We will not shrink back to Seoul like frightened children. If the Dominion wants war, we will give it to them. And when we are finished, they will remember the price of touching humanity." The chamber erupted again, but this time not in argument. It was fear clashing with rage. Some voices demanded restraint. Others cried for revenge. The sound was chaos until Aisha found herself speaking, louder than she expected. Enough! The noise stopped. Dozens of eyes turned to her. She was no politician, no admiral, only a commander stationed at Europa. But in that moment the weight of silence seemed to back her. "I watched the last message from Aurora 9, she said quietly. "I heard a child's voice. It wasn't just a colony they destroyed. It was families. It was children. If we do nothing, every human family beyond Earth will suffer the same fate." Her voice hardened. "We can argue about politics later. Right now, survival is the only choice." For a moment, no one spoke. Then Admiral Vega rose to his feet. "You've heard it from my officers. You've seen the data with your own eyes. This is not about territory. This is not about trade. This is survival." He slammed his fist on the table. "Mobilize the fleets. Every ship. Every station. Every dock. Humanity goes to war." The chamber lit with commands flying across consoles. Messages went out to Luna shipyards, to Mars mining rigs, to orbital defense platforms. The order was clear: convert everything into war machines, prepare every pilot, call up every reserve. But as the chamber stirred with urgency, Ghost walked toward Aisha. He didn't speak at first, just handed her a small encrypted chip. "Before I left Aurora 9's orbit, I found something," he said softly. She took the chip, confused. "What is it?" "Hidden in the static of that last broadcast," Ghost replied. "Coordinates. Someone embedded them into the signal." Her breath caught. "Coordinates? To where?" His eyes were steady, unreadable as always. "The Kale Dominion's central world." The chip felt heavy in her hand, heavier than the silence that had started all of this. She realized then that Aurora 9's last cry wasn't only a scream of fear. It was a message. Someone, in their final moments, had pointed the way to the enemy's heart. And if humanity was truly going to war, that was where they would strike. The stealth ship Shadow's Edge drifted through black space like a ghost, its hull blending with the stars. Captain Elias Ward sat in the pilot's chair, eyes fixed on the sensor feed, every muscle in his body tense. Beyond the glass canopy, the Kale Dominion's territory stretched ahead. He was deep inside enemy space now, where a single mistake meant certain death. He had made runs like this before, slipping past patrols, listening to whispers of alien signals, but never had the stakes felt this heavy. Aurora 9's silence echoed in his mind. He could still hear that child's cry, a sound no soldier could ever forget, pushed him forward. The coordinates hidden in the colony's final broadcast had led him here, to the very edge of a star system teeming with enemy power. And what he saw made his blood run cold. The first images from his scanners appeared across the display. Vast alien shipyards, colossal stations orbiting a swollen red sun. They stretched across space like a city of war, each docked with warships larger and sleeker than anything Earth had built. He counted thousands in the first scan alone, their hulls glowing with strange runes of alien energy. Ward zoomed in, recording everything. The Dominion's fleet was not just real, it was endless. Humanity's estimates had been wrong. Their enemies were preparing for something far larger than anyone had feared. As he maneuvered past the outer patrol line, a pulse from his scanners caught his eye. He froze. A faint life signature, faint but undeniably human. Ward's hands shook. There should not have been humans here. Aurora 9 had been erased completely, or so they thought. He adjusted the ship's course and slipped closer, cloaking fields humming. The signal came from a smaller station drifting just outside the massive shipyards. Through the viewing port, Ward saw containment pods lined up inside like cargo. He zoomed the lens and his breath caught. Humans. Not many, maybe a few dozen, suspended in strange crystalline chambers. Some were adults, their faces pale and still. Others were children, small forms curled in forced sleep. The aliens hadn't killed everyone. They had taken survivors. Ward's heart pounded as he focused on one pod near the front. A young girl, no older than 10, lay frozen in stasis. He stared at her face, framed by dark hair, her cheeks pressed against the glass. The Dominion hadn't saved her, they had marked her. Across her pod were glowing alien symbols, genetic cleansing. Rage burned in his chest. This wasn't war. This was butchery disguised as science. They weren't only exterminating humanity, they were experimenting, trying to unmake it. Ward knew he couldn't take them all, but he could take one. He guided Shadow's edge closer, activating the ship's grappling beams. His vessel shivered as the energy field wrapped around the pod, pulling it free. Alarms inside the alien station wailed in a shrill, otherworldly pitch. Red lights flared. "Damn it," Ward muttered, yanking the pod into his cargo bay as the Dominion station stirred. Fighters launched from docking arms, sleek silver darts breaking away in swarms. His ship's sensors screamed with incoming signatures. Ward pushed his engines to the limit, vanishing into the dark. Shadow's edge flickered in and out of sight as enemy ships tried to lock onto him. Plasma fire streaked past his hull, sizzling against the shields. He twisted through an asteroid belt, every move precise, every instinct honed by years of running close to death. "Come on, hold together," he whispered as his ship's systems groaned under the strain. The Dominion fighters broke off, unwilling to chase further into the drifting rocks. Their voices, sharp and cold, crackled faintly across open frequencies. One of them escaped. A shadow ship? They know. Ward didn't wait to hear more. He jumped to faster than light, leaving the Dominion's heart behind. The girl's pod glowed faintly in the bay, and he walked to it once the ship steadied. Her chest rose and fell slowly, a fragile reminder that humanity wasn't finished yet. He placed his hand on the glass. "You're going to make it," he said softly, "and you're going to tell them what happened here." Hours later, Shadow's edge slipped back into safe space near Europa Station. Aisha Khan was waiting on the docking platform, her face drawn tight with worry. She watched as Ward and his crew unloaded the pod, and when her eyes fell on the child inside, her breath caught. "She's alive," Aisha whispered. Ward nodded grimly. "Barely, but it's not just that." He handed her the recorded data, every image of the alien shipyards, every detail of their experiments. The Dominion didn't just destroy Aurora 9. They're building an armada, and they're trying to erase us from existence. This girl is proof. Aisha stared at the sleeping child, the glow of the stasis chamber reflecting in her eyes. She felt her resolve harden into steel. "They wanted to send us a message," she said, her voice low. "But instead, they've given us the reason to fight harder than we ever have before." Ward glanced back toward the stars, knowing the Kale Dominion would already be hunting him. "And they'll come sooner than we think," he said, "because they know I was there." The silence that followed was heavier than before. Humanity had their proof, they had their survivor, but they also had the enemy's attention. The war had already begun. Factories on Luna stopped building passenger liners the moment the order came in. The sleek shells of transport ships were stripped down overnight, their frames rebuilt into armored hulls. On Mars, mining barges that once cut through asteroid rock were hauled back to dry docks, their massive drills ripped out and replaced with missile tubes. Even the outer colonies sent their freighters, cargo haulers, and survey craft, anything that could be fitted with weapons. Humanity was turning itself inside out for war. Commander Aisha Khan stood on the observation deck of Europa Station, watching as ships streamed past, heading toward the inner assembly yards. What had once been trade routes now looked like a migration of steel, the largest gathering of human vessels in history. It was both beautiful and terrifying. Beside her, Admiral Vega's voice rumbled like distant thunder. 600,000 ships projected. Mining rigs, refitted freighters, combat frigates, Titans. Every dock, every yard, every station working around the clock. "Will it be enough?" Aisha asked quietly. Vega didn't answer right away. His eyes stayed fixed on the stars. "It has to be." The sound of boots echoed in the deck hall, and Dr. May Alvarez approached, her dark hair pulled back, her lab coat marked with stains of late nights and no sleep. She carried a data slate, her expression grim but burning with determination. "I've been studying the Dominion's weapons," she said. "Their shields absorb nearly everything we throw at them. Plasma, kinetics, lasers, they bend it all away. But I found a weakness. She tapped the slate, projecting a ripple of diagrams. They depend on a very narrow energy frequency. Overload it and the entire shield net collapses. One burst, and they're naked. Aisha leaned forward. You can build something to do that? Dr. Alvarez's eyes hardened. I already have. It's ugly, it's dangerous, and it will fry half the systems that fire it. But it will work. We call it the disruptor. Aisha studied the projection. The thought of thousands of Dominion ships stripped bare sent a thrill through her chest. Finally, a weapon that could turn the fight. Before she could speak, Ghost entered the deck, silent as always. His face was pale, worn from his mission. Don't get too comfortable, he said. While we're busy building, the Dominion is moving too. Their patrol chatter mentions Earth by name. Vega turned sharply. They know where you went. They know, Ghost confirmed. They'll strike before we're ready. The words weighed heavily in the air. Aisha imagined Dominion fleets cutting into Sol, burning Mars, Luna, even Earth itself. The thought of cities in flames sent a cold shiver down her spine. How soon? She asked. Ghost shook his head. Sooner than we think. They know we'll respond to Aurora 9. They know we won't stay silent. Vega's jaw tightened. Then we move faster. We push production to the breaking point. I don't care if the welds glow red. Get the ships out. He turned to Alvarez. How many disruptors can you build? As many as we can get parts for, she said. But we'll need to divert resources. It means fewer traditional weapons. Do it, Vega said. If their shields fall, the rest won't matter. The comm screen lit up with fresh reports. Shipyards on Luna had already doubled output. Mars miners volunteered entire fleets of converted rigs. Civilian crews who had never fired a weapon before signed up for combat training. Families who lost loved ones at Aurora. 9 demanded to be armed, ready to fight back. Humanity was not retreating. Humanity was bracing to strike. Aisha watched it unfold with a strange mix of dread and pride. She knew the losses would be staggering. Millions would never return from this war. But she also knew there was no turning back. The girl they had rescued from the Dominion's lab remained in medical stasis aboard Shadow's Edge. Sometimes Aisha visited her, standing by the glass chamber, staring at her sleeping face. That child was proof of what the Dominion intended to do, proof that they would not stop until every trace of humanity was gone. That thought burned inside Aisha like fire. Ghost appeared at her side during one such visit. You think she'll survive? He asked quietly. She has to, Aisha said. She's the reason we can't lose. She's all the proof anyone needs of what we're fighting for. Ghost's eyes flicked toward the pod. The Dominion won't let this go. They'll come for her. For us. For Earth. Aisha met his gaze. Then we'll be ready. But her words felt thin as alarms suddenly echoed through the station. The deck lights shifted red, and the voice of the duty officer rang out through the comms. Long-range sensors picking up a transmission. Dominion broadcast on all frequencies. Everyone froze as the feed cut in. The image that filled the room was alien and cold. A Kale Dominion warlord, his scaled face lit by the glow of command screens, leaned forward. His voice was translated by the system, sharp and merciless. Humans, your colony was the first. Earth will be the last. We will cleanse your kind from the stars. Prepare your graves. The feed ended. The silence that followed was more chilling than the threat. Admiral Vega's face was stone. Then it's decided. We don't wait for them to strike. His voice dropped into a growl. We take the war to them. The mobilization had just begun, but the Kale Dominion had already marked Earth for extinction. The choice was gone. The only path forward was fire and steel. The human fleet moved out like a tidal wave of steel. Thousands of ships streamed past the moons of Jupiter, their engines blazing, their formations steady and sharp. Freighters turned into warships, mining rigs loaded with missiles, patrol craft armed with railguns, all of them heading toward the Kepler Passage, the first choke point between Sol and Dominion space. It was the beginning of the largest mobilization in human history, and every crew knew what waited beyond. Commander Aisha Khan stood on the bridge of her command ship, the dreadnought Valiant. She could feel the vibration of its engines through her boots, a steady heartbeat that matched her own. Around her, young officers watched their screens with tense faces, many of them about to fight for the first time. Admiral Vega's voice came over the wideband comms, deep and commanding, carried across 600,000 vessels. Today we meet them. Today we show them humanity does not kneel. Aurora 9 will not be forgotten. Stand ready. Every ship, every crew, every weapon. We fight as one. The crews answered in a chorus of acknowledgments, voices crackling across the vast network of comms. It was uneven, scattered, but it carried a strength that tightened Aisha's chest. They were ready. Ghost's ship, Shadow's Edge, ran ahead of the main formation, cloaked in silence. His sensors swept the corridor. Within minutes, he sent the report back. Dominion patrol fleet 200 strong, blocking the passage. Fast attack cruisers, shielded heavy frigates, and several carriers already launching fighters. Their formation was tight, confident. They were waiting. They want us to see them, Ghost's calm voice said across the channel. They want us to be afraid. Vega's response was ice. Then let them see us too. The fleet shifted into combat formation. Thousands of smaller ships moved ahead like teeth of a blade, frigates and fighters spreading wide. Behind them came the larger destroyers and heavy cruisers. At the core, the Titans and Dreadnoughts formed a wall of firepower. The humans didn't try to hide. They lit their engines at full burn, announcing their arrival. The Dominion Patrol Commander, confident in his shields and range, launched the first strike. A barrage of plasma bolts filled the void, bright lances of blue light cutting across space. Dozens of human frigates went dark instantly, torn apart before they could fire back. Sparks and shattered hulls spun away into nothing. Gasps filled Aisha's bridge, but Vega's order came with iron certainty. Hold formation. Return fire. And then the void lit up. Thousands of missiles streaked forward, railgun slugs cutting invisible lines, plasma beams flashing from every angle. The humans fired not in measured volleys but in overwhelming storms. The Dominion shields flared, absorbing the first waves, shrugging them off. But then Alvarez's disruptors came into play. Every 10th ship fired its new weapon, crude and unstable. Energy bursts rippled across the Dominion fleet, shaking their shields, overloading their protective nets. One by one, the shields collapsed. And when they did, the humans tore through them like wolves on wounded prey. The first Dominion cruiser exploded in a blinding fireball. Then another, then another. Human frigates swarmed in, sacrificing themselves to open gaps, ramming directly into alien carriers and detonating reactors at point-blank range. The enemy was powerful, their weapons cutting ships apart with ease, but the humans pressed in with sheer numbers and relentless will. Aisha watched as one squadron of Martian mining rigs dove straight into enemy lines, their hulls burning, their improvised plasma cutters slicing into alien armor. They died within seconds, but their attack ripped open a gap wide enough for an entire wave of destroyers to break through. Enemy shields are failing across the board, shouted one of her officers. Vega's voice boomed again. Push them. Do not stop until nothing remains. For the next half hour, the void was chaos. Human ships were destroyed by the hundreds, but every time one fell, more pushed forward, filling the gap. Dominion fighters tried to swarm the edges, but were cut down by clouds of human interceptors. Alien cruisers tried to retreat into the corridor, only to be cornered and overwhelmed by waves of smaller ships. Ghost's voice came through again. Their command vessel is breaking. Sending coordinates. The Valiant and 2 other dreadnoughts adjusted course, their forward batteries glowing. With one coordinated strike, they unleashed everything: missiles, rail slugs, plasma. The Dominion command ship vanished in a sunbright flash. The rest of the alien fleet broke apart. Patrol destroyed, came Ghost's quiet report. The bridge of the Valiant erupted in cheers, but Aisha did not smile. She looked at the wreckage spinning in space, the debris of both human and alien ships drifting together. This was only the first battle, and even in victory they had lost thousands. Dr. Alvarez's report came through moments later. From the scans of enemy wreckage, she confirmed what they had feared most. The Dominion's weapons weren't just designed to destroy ships. Embedded in their systems was a biocode tuned specifically to human DNA. If unleashed on Earth, it could poison every living person in weeks. Aisha felt her stomach drop. So Aurora 9 wasn't just destroyed, she whispered. It was erased. Alvarez's voice was steady but grim. This isn't conquest. It's extermination. The words sank into the silence of the bridge. Humanity had won their first blood, but now they knew the truth. The Kale Dominion didn't want territory. They wanted humanity gone. Every man, woman, and child. Admiral Vega's voice came again, quieter this time but colder than before. Then we'll give them what they gave us. Not just war, vengeance. The void around the Kepler passage glowed with the remains of the battle, a graveyard of fire and steel. And beyond it, deep in Dominion space, waited hundreds of thousands more ships. The war had only just begun. The wreckage of the Dominion patrol still floated in the Kepler passage when humanity's fleet pressed onward. No time was wasted. The enemy now knew Earth would not hide, and every moment lost meant the Dominion could gather more ships to block the way. Admiral Vega gave only one order: advance without pause. The humans moved like a storm rolling through the stars, 600,000 ships in formation, their engines turning space into a sea of fire. The Dominion, as Ghost had warned, was ready for them. Ahead lay a fortress system, 3 linked worlds protected by rings of defense stations and fleets massed in every orbit. Long-range scans showed more than 200,000 alien warships waiting, lined in patterns that filled the void like a great net. Cruisers with shields glowing bright, carriers brimming with fighters, colossal battleships armed with weapons that outclassed anything humans had seen before. Their commanders believed this would be the trap that broke Earth's courage. On the bridge of the Valiant, Aisha Khan studied the projections. The alien formation was perfect. Walls of ships layered for maximum firepower, narrow approach lanes filled with mines and fortified choke points. By every rule of war, humans should have turned back. Their ships were weaker, their weapons less advanced, their losses already high. But instead of fear, there was only silence across the fleet channels, a silence heavy with determination. Admiral Vega stood tall at the center of his dreadnought's command deck. His voice went out across every vessel, steady and unshaken. They think walls will save them. They think numbers will break us. They don't understand what it means to be human. Today we teach them. The order came like a lightning strike. The fleet divided into hundreds of attack groups, breaking formation in a way no alien strategist could have imagined. Instead of charging down a single lane, they surged from every angle, above, below, from the flanks, even through the dangerous asteroid belts. Thousands of ships risked destruction to create chaos. Dominion commanders scrambled to adjust, their neat formations breaking apart as humans attacked from directions their doctrine had never prepared for. On the edge of the battle, Ghost's stealth ship weaved through enemy lines, his scanners recording every move. He slipped behind the Dominion's rear guard, striking their communications relays with precision fire before vanishing back into the dark. Cut off from one another, enemy fleets began to falter, their unity shattered. Then Alvarez's disruptors came online. Small human ships darted forward, firing bursts of unstable energy into the Dominion shields. Blue walls of alien light rippled and collapsed. In seconds, warships that had once seemed untouchable were stripped bare. The larger human cruisers and dreadnoughts followed, hammering them with missile storms and railgun fire. Whole enemy squadrons burned at once. But the cost was brutal. For every alien cruiser destroyed, human frigates were shredded by beams that sliced through steel like paper. Carriers spat out swarms of Dominion fighters, and though they were met by human interceptors, the void soon filled with burning wrecks on both sides. The battle became a storm of light and death, a constant roar across the comms of ships calling for reinforcements, then going silent one by one. Aisha gripped the edge of her console, her knuckles white. Her ship shook under the impact of near misses, alarms flashing red. Yet every time she thought they might break, another wave of human ships surged forward, filling the gaps left by the fallen. The persistence was terrifying even to her. It was as if the fleet itself had one mind, one purpose, pushing forward without end. Across the Dominion's command bridge, alien officers shouted in disbelief. Their ships had longer range, stronger shields, better speed. None of it mattered. The humans did not fight for territory or advantage. They fought like predators that refused to stop until the prey was on the ground. Every sacrifice opened a hole. Every death made space for the living to strike harder. Impossible! One alien commander gasped as his defense line collapsed. They should have broken by now. But humans did not break. For 3 days and nights, the fighting raged. Massive Dominion fortresses crumbled under bombardments, their glowing rings snapping apart like shattered glass. Stations that had stood for centuries fell in minutes to swarms of human destroyers. Entire minefields were cleared by sacrificial frigates diving headlong into the explosions so that others could pass through. When the dust cleared, the fortress system was gone. 200,000 Dominion ships had been reduced to wrecks drifting in silence. Human losses were terrible, tens of thousands of ships destroyed, but the fleet pressed on, its numbers still overwhelming. On the bridge of the Valiant, Aisha stood in the eerie quiet after the battle. Smoke still lingered in the air from overloaded systems. Officers slumped in exhaustion, but her eyes were fixed on the display. The way ahead was open. Dominion space lay exposed. Ghost's voice came over the channel, low and steady. Their command net is in chaos. They didn't expect this. They don't know how to fight us. Dr. Alvarez appeared beside him, her tone grim. We've proven we can break their shields. But they won't stop here. The next line will be worse, stronger, and they'll know we're coming. Admiral Vega's reply was calm, almost cold. Good. Let them prepare. Let them bring everything they have. Humanity doesn't turn back. Humanity doesn't kneel. We finish what they started. Aisha closed her eyes, hearing again the child's cry from Aurora 9. That sound was why they fought. That sound was why they would not stop until the Dominion was ashes. And as the fleet reformed, engines burning bright, the storm rolled on toward the enemy's heart. The human fleet entered the Dominion's core system like a wall of fire. 700,000 ships stretched across the void, their engines blazing, their weapons charged. Before them waited the last and largest enemy defense. More than 200,000 Dominion vessels formed a fortress around their homeworld, their commanders certain this would be humanity's grave. They had prepared for weeks, filling the system with stations, mines, and fleets stacked layer upon layer. But as the humans advanced, it was not fearlessness that carried them forward. It was rage, cold and sharp, born from the silence of Aurora 9. On the bridge of the Valiant, Aisha Khan felt her heart pound as the enemy filled her screens. The scale was crushing, an ocean of ships brighter than any starfield, but she saw no hesitation in the faces of her crew. They knew this was the final battle. No one expected to survive. What mattered was that humanity did not fall. Admiral Vega's voice rose across the fleet, steady as steel. They thought they could erase us. They thought humans were prey. Today, we show them what happens when prey turns predator. No mercy, no surrender. Today we end this. The order rang out and the storm began. Human ships attacked from every direction at once, a swarm too vast to count. Titans unleashed barrages that shook the stars. Destroyers raced between the cracks, firing salvos into exposed flanks. Swarms of interceptors cut through the skies, filling the void with burning trails. The Dominion responded with everything they had. Beams tore apart frigates by the dozen. Human carriers burst into flames, their crews lost in seconds. But every time the aliens struck, the humans came harder, stronger, refusing to slow. Ghost's stealth ship darted behind enemy lines, slicing into command relays. He sent constant updates, breaking apart the enemy's coordination. The Dominion's neat formations collapsed under the chaos. Their fleets pulled in too many directions at once. Then Dr. Alvarez's disruptors lit the void, bursts of unstable energy shredding alien shields. For a heartbeat, the stars flickered, and then Dominion cruisers stood bare before human firepower. Within minutes, entire lines of alien ships were torn to pieces. The cost was horrific. Aisha watched friend after friend vanish from her comms, their ships lost to fire and silence. One squadron of Earthborn fighters rammed straight into a Dominion battleship, detonating their fuel to bring it down. Martian mining rigs overloaded their plasma cutters, slicing through enemy hulls before tearing themselves apart. Humanity fought like a species that had nothing left to lose, and that truth terrified their enemies more than any weapon. On the Dominion flagship, the alien warlord roared in disbelief as his fleets crumbled. They throw themselves into death without hesitation. They burn their own ships to kill us. This is madness. But madness or not, the humans pressed on. For 72 hours the battle raged, the void burning with fire and ruin. In the end, the numbers spoke louder than any strategy. One by one, Dominion fleets collapsed. Their stations were reduced to slag. Their minefields were cleared by waves of sacrificial frigates. Their homeworld itself shuddered under the bombardments of human titans, its skies set ablaze. Finally, the Dominion warlord sent a desperate message across all channels. His face filled the screens of every human ship, scales cracked, eyes burning with rage and despair. "Humans," he spat, "you are no better than us. You claim justice, but you bring extermination." Admiral Vega stood silent for a long moment, then replied with words that carried across the stars. "Justice and extermination are not the same. You chose genocide. We chose to survive. And survival means you cannot." The warlord screamed his defiance, but his voice was cut short as 100 human ships opened fire at once, obliterating his flagship in a storm of light. When the shooting finally stopped, silence returned to the system. The Dominion's fleets were gone. Their stations were gone. Their worlds burned, uninhabitable for generations to come. Humanity had paid in blood and fire, but the enemy was finished. On the Valiant, Aisha stood at the viewport, staring at the ruined planet below. Smoke and fire covered its surface. She thought of the child rescued from the Dominion's lab, still asleep in her stasis pod, alive because humanity had not given up. That child was the future, and this destruction was the price paid to keep her safe. Dr. Alvarez joined her, exhaustion in her eyes. "We've done it," she said quietly. Aisha nodded. "But we've changed forever." Admiral Vega came to stand with them. He looked out at the broken world, his face set with the weight of command. "Let the galaxy watch. Let them remember. Humanity will not be erased. If they try, we will answer with fire until none remain." Across the fleet, battered ships held formation, their engines steady despite the ruin. Together they began broadcasting a single message on every channel, in every tongue, across every world that could hear. Humanity does not forget. Humanity does not forgive. Any who attempt our destruction will face their own. The words rolled through the stars, a promise written in blood. The war against the Dominion was over, but a new age had begun. Humanity was no longer seen as fragile settlers reaching timidly for new worlds. Humanity was now something else, something the galaxy would never again underestimate. They were predators, relentless and unyielding. Aisha placed her hand against the cold glass of the viewport. "Aurora 9, she whispered. "They tried to erase you, but you gave us our reason." The stars burned brighter beyond the wreckage, endless and waiting, and humanity, scarred but unbroken, was ready to claim them.